Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4 of the Prospect Podcast. I am Ken Boothalier. Thanks for tuning in today. Before we get started, I want to recap a little bit about last episode. So we had Derek Fernholz on, client of mine, crypto guru as I referred to him, and we had an interesting conversation. I know a lot of that can be kind of boring, but given everything that's going on with the FTX stuff lately, that scumbag Sam, whatever his name is, and all that shit going on, might be worthwhile tuning into that. Give you kind of a foundational education on what crypto is, how it is, etc. A lot of stuff out in the marketplace right now. Like Barstool Sports, they have a finance page. Large is the main guy on there. He's saying crypto is absolutely dead, just with NFT, etc. So kind of timely that we covered that last episode. Now go back and check that out if you haven't already, because I think it's some interesting stuff. While we're on the topic of that FTX, kind of combining a couple things here with what we saw with midterms, that FTX stuff, etc. Guys, there's a ton of shady shit going on in this country. And you know what? It can be easy to be disheartened by it. It can be easy to lose hope, etc. But what you can't control is what you are doing every day. You can control your sphere. You can control taking care of your friends, your family, etc. And it starts at home. This FTX, I'm not sure if you guys saw this. So we gave and keep giving a shit ton of money to Ukraine. Ukraine, in turn, who supposedly needs that money, is turning around and giving it to FTX or investing in FTX. FTX was the 4th largest donor to the Democrat Party. And now we have this today imploding. Raises some questions on money laundering, etc., and just shows a spotlight on what we're dealing with as a country and as a world and the people in charge and kind of the shit that they're putting us through. It could be hard to stomach. Midterms did not turn out the way a lot of people thought they were going to turn out. Here locally in Arizona, I mean, we're a full-blown blue state at this point. Blue governor, blue senators, is what it is. A lot of theories as to why that is, some conspiracy theories, etc. Interesting question why the existing Secretary of State who's in charge of elections is also running for the Democratic Party. Not saying anything, just an interesting question, is something to look at. But I think a bigger part of it is people are leaving and relocating from these majority blue states and a mass exodus. And unfortunately, it seemed to be bringing a lot of those policies and the way they vote with them. So policies that may have destroyed California are now being imported into Arizona. But again, what we can do is take care of our own on a personal level. This isn't meant to be a political podcast, but it's stuff they're dealing with, and it's having an impact on our financial landscape and the disconnect between what's happening in the stock market and what's happening in your home. Disconnect between companies' earnings and, the layoffs that we're seeing. There's a mass disconnect between what the news is telling us is happening and what we're experiencing at home. And that's also rolling over into the real estate market. So you've got certain people, Diana Olick being one of them, since 2016 has been beating the drum that there is going to be a housing collapse. What else happened in 2016? Not saying they're tied together, but pretty big stuff happened in 2016. Has since then been beating the drum on a housing collapse. People are beginning to echo that sentiment, and it never came true. In fact, from 16 through 21, the appreciation that people experienced by owning homes was unprecedented. So if you had listened to these talking heads in 2016 and not purchased a home, you would have missed out on hundreds of thousands of dollars in wealth generation through your equity growing and appreciation growing in the property that you own. So now the people that have been calling their shot for so long, now, man, if it doesn't come true, they look like a donkey. That's what we're seeing right now. So now that the midterm elections are over, it is going to be okay for a recession to be allowed to happen. To actually say, even though we've been in a recession for almost a year, change the definition, move the goalposts, etc. We're past the midterms. A recession is going to be allowed to happen now, and now that's all you're going to hear about. What's going to be tied to that is the housing market. It's because the talking heads have been calling their shots for so long that they feel that this is an opportunity to bring it to fruition so they can say that they're right. The one thing that they're missing in all of this, though, and most of these people are not very smart, guys. One thing they're missing is that the overall inventory of homes that exist in this country is at a mass deficit. We are short millions of homes from what we currently need. When the last housing collapse happened, we had millions of homes in surplus that couldn't be sold. They were sitting empty. They couldn't get filled. And right now we have more people than homes that exist. The issues that builders have encountered from supply chain, labor, not wanting to get out over their skis based on the last housing collapse or recession and have those extra homes on the market, are not building and are unable to build, even if they wanted to, at a pace to bridge that gap in demand. So that's why with all this that we've seen with mortgage rates this year skyrocketing, unprecedented move in mortgage rates, well, we saw that such a blow to the housing market in general, as far as the mortgage industry, the real estate industry, the affordability for people, massive blow. We still have yet to get this housing crash. And it's not going to happen. But that's not going to keep them from talking about it and trying to bring it to fruition. But I tell you what, it's not going to happen. And the reason why is that inflation is continuing to happen. But year over year, it is slowing down, and we are getting favorable reports. More importantly, in the last week, the CPI and PPI reports both came in with more favorable numbers than anticipated and showing inflation slowing. This is a great thing for the bond market, and the bond market is what drives mortgage rates. So on Thursday of last week, we saw a 206-point improvement in the mortgage-backed security market. That equated to between 0.75% and 1% improvement in mortgage rates in one day. That is the best single-day move for mortgage rates in history, period. Since that time, we haven't even been a week yet, rates have continued to improve at a slower margin, but they've continued to improve. But that still hasn't stopped the Fed, some people on the Fed, some other talking heads from continuing to say, no, mortgage rates are going to hit 10%. The housing collapse is coming. Well, guys, I'm here to say that that is not accurate. In fact, we are on the road back to more favorable mortgage rates. And when that happens, we are going to be in a frenzy once again. Back to what I said earlier, the supply and demand issue. The demand did not go away. Supply overall did not increase. Yeah, the number of homes listed could have increased, but the supply of homes that exist has not increased like it needs to. So that demand never went away when mortgage rates went up. The spigot was still on. There was just a kink in the hose. And when those mortgage rates come back down, some estimating around 5% at some point next year, that kink is going to be released from the hose, and we're going to be back into a massive buyer market, very competitive, and the buyers are going to lose the leverage that they have today. Buyers have all the leverage in the world today, guys. We are seeing price reductions. We are seeing seller concessions. We are seeing repairs done to homes. The sellers are bending over backwards to get top dollar for their home and make sure that both parties are satisfied. That opportunity has not existed for quite some time. And it's the opportunity that buyers have been begging for, especially over the last 2 or 3 years. Ken, I am tired of looking at hundreds of different homes and making hundreds of offers and being prepared to offer over list price. Increase my down payment by $50,000 to pay more than what the house is worth because I need to get into a home because rates are so affordable and inventory is scarce. So what people have been begging to happen has happened. You as a buyer now have all the leverage in the world to get yourself into a very, very good spot. But as soon as rates drop, which they will, all that leverage will go away. There's no doubt about it because the demand is still there. Now, right now might be the best time to buy a house. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying it's worth exploring because it very well could be. So I did a reel on this the other day, which got a lot of traction. But for those of you that don't necessarily follow me on social, might have stumbled across this, I'll want to lay it out for you. So this time last year, a $500,000 home, you would have had to pay $550,000 to get that house. And in doing so, the home still appraised for $500,000, you had to increase your down payment by $50,000. That's what you had to do to get into a home last year. That home listed for $500,000 today, you likely can get it for about $480,000. In addition to that, you can likely get $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 in seller concessions, or otherwise known as seller credits, to go towards your closing costs. That's a $100,000 swing from last year to this year. Now, granted, rates are higher, but rates are a temporary thing. Your home is a more permanent thing. And you're going to hear people, they've said this, and there's been a lot of controversy over it, is, you marry the house, you date the rate. Cute tagline, but there's a lot of validity to it. So would you have rather paid $50,000 over list price and come to the table with $50,000 extra out of your savings a year ago and have a 3.25 interest rate? Or would you rather save potentially $50,000 to $100,000 getting a comparable home today and have a payment that's a little bit higher, a mortgage payment that's a few $100s more expensive a month? But that might be a temporary measure, because you get in that house today and rates recover where we anticipate them to recover to next year, there's going to be an opportunity to refinance. And that needs to come with a disclaimer. There's no guarantee that you'll be able to refinance. You need to qualify for a whole new loan again. But if you are a responsible consumer and maintaining income, maintaining credit, being a good citizen, taking care of the items that you need to take care of, then that opportunity is going to be there for you. But you also need to be comfortable with the payment that you're getting now at the higher rate. You can't say, well, geez, I can float this payment for 6 months, but then I have to refinance. That cannot be your approach. And it's, you know what? If I'm stuck with this payment for the next 3 years, so be it. It's fine. But man, am I chomping at the bit to refinance with you when the time comes. And all data and indications lead us to believe that that is the path that we're getting on right now. We're getting on the path back to normal rates, where we're going to be in a refinance environment for our clients that have purchased over the last 7-8 months. We're going to be in a refinance environment for them. And people that wait to buy are with the thousands of other people that are waiting to buy. And that kink is going to come out of the hose, and the shit's going to hit the fan again, and you're going to lose all that leverage. So something to consider when we're talking about this. And tying to that, last week after we saw the improvement in mortgage rates, there was a massive increase in mortgage applications as a result, which can be expected. It was actually the largest weekly increase in applications in history in such a short period of time. Now, granted, mortgage applications are down 40% year over year. Duh. When a year ago, when you can get a rate in the high 2s, low 3s versus what you're bouncing around 7 now, depending upon your situation, potentially low 6s, best case. Allergies. Mortgage applications are going to be down, but down only 40%. Only 40%. That's huge, but not that huge. So something to take into account. We are on the road back to normal rates and demand being higher and buyers losing their leverage. And sellers, you know what? If you've had your home listed for some time and had no luck, I think your luck's going to change here in 2023. Speaking of the increase in mortgage applications, I personally and my team had an increase in buyer leads over the last week and a half from our excellent realtor partners that we have both here locally in Arizona and out of Alaska. My team, Team LendPro, operates out of 2 states at this point in time, but we've got other resources within our branch to cover most of the U.S. But we specialize in Arizona and Alaska. We saw a massive increase in buyer leads last week compared to what we had seen over the last month or so. One of those individuals laid it out perfectly. We were having a very in-depth conversation, self-employed borrower, having to structure where the cash to close is coming from, lining it up, all the things without actually taking an application, without being the lender that says, oh, you're interested? Submit this app, then we'll talk. That's not how I operate. When we have a discovery call, I'm going to find out as much information as I can, do a lot of manual math, and give you a very good idea of where you're at. This gentleman I spoke to last week, pretty complex stuff. He was a pretty savvy guy, pretty complex stuff, self-employed, hadn't filed his tax returns over the last couple of years, had everything with the CPA, had extensions filed, but wanted to make sure what he was doing with his taxes was going to put him in a position to purchase a home without obviously writing Uncle Sam too big of a check. Having this conversation, he couldn't have been more appreciative. Keep in mind that this person had already spoken to 3 different mortgage lenders prior to running into me. And the best thing he kept saying was, Ken, you're the doctor. This is why when you're sick and you go to a doctor, you don't hold anything back from your doctor. Your doctor needs to know everything, all the symptoms and everything you've got going on to be able to diagnose it and cure you. And I loved his analogy of calling me a doctor because it's true in that regard. The more information and honest that you're going to be with me or any other mortgage lender that you decide to work with, they're going to put you in the best position possible to move forward. There's nothing worse than speaking to a buyer, potential buyer, says, yeah, 720 credit score. Yeah, don't worry about the cash to close. I've got it. And yeah, don't worry about work. I make $100,000 a year. When the rubber hits the road, their FICO scores low 6s instead of low 7s. Well, Ken, my Discover card statement says I have a 715. Well, that's not the case when it came time to pull your credit for a mortgage or Credit Karma or one of these other places that gives you your bullshit credit score. So you got that. Oh, no, don't worry about the cash to close. Well, they're sitting on mattress money, meaning that they have cash literally in their house. Guess what, guys? That cash can't be used in conjunction with a federally regulated mortgage to support your cash to close. Those funds need to be sourced or need to sit in a bank account long enough to be seasoned. But because you weren't honest enough with your lender up front, you weren't able to get that information to be able to game plan and get things in place. Or yeah, Ken, I make $100,000 a year. Oh, what? You neglected to tell your lender that you were self-employed and after all your write-offs, you actually take a loss. Guys, being fully transparent with your mortgage lender is going to put you in the best position possible. Whether you're working with myself, somebody on my team, or anybody else, take that away and go forth with that knowledge. Don't be afraid to have the conversations with a mortgage lender. Don't be afraid to do it. It can be scary. Like, shit, I don't want somebody telling me I'm not ready to buy a house. I'd rather mentally check out and say, I'm not ready to buy emotionally, so I'm not going to do it. As opposed to having maybe that might be a tough conversation. But when you have that tough conversation and you're fully transparent and you lay everything out there, we're going to put a plan in place for you. So many of my buyers over my, 10, 15 years now in mortgage and finance, so many of them, we have had such a long runway. They've called, they were transparent. We get down to the nitty gritty. We lay out a game plan. We continue to follow up on that game plan, making sure that those milestones are being hit. And then sure enough, a year and a half after that, we find them getting into their first home. Don't be afraid to have the conversations, guys. And don't believe everything you see in the media. If you haven't already, follow the podcast Instagram page. I should know what this is. I might buzz on Justin over here. The Prospect Podcast. Any underscores or periods in there, Justin? In the meantime, my personal Instagram, _LendPro. That's an easy one. Prospect Podcast. Period in between. Prospect Podcast. See, that's why I have these guys around. Make sure you're following those. The Prospect Podcast page is simply going to have clips from here, keeping you updated on future guests, etc. My personal page is where you're going to get a lot of that market updates and information. And guys, I'll be honest with you. I've brought on 23 new realtor partners in 2022, and the value I'm providing them is unmatched. Follow it, see what it's all about. I'm not just another talking head on TikTok. I'm going to give you shit straight, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not worried about being liked. I'm worried about being trusted. So check out those pages. While I'm on it, I just referenced Justin and Zach here, Weber Boys Entertainment, Weber Boys Productions. Check these guys out also. They take care of all my tech. I tried to do this years ago. Couldn't make it happen. That's why I got these guys to make it happen. So check them out as well. If you're in the mortgage or real estate space and you're looking for somebody to help create content for you, whether it be podcast, YouTube, shorts, whatever it is, these guys are dialed in and can make it happen. So check it out. Until next time, have a great one. Keep hammering. We'll see you next month.